It's not just about duality, it's about your duality. You know, your console is different to somebody else's console. And we make sure that that partnership with Sweetwater, we get the very best for the customer. We love the idea that what people do on here is really influential to their creative process and can make them work really fast. And that's something we hear time and time again.
Hey, Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Got a special guest with me today. Phil Scholes from SSL's here. Great to see you.
Hi, great to see you, Mitch.
And you have brought a pretty fun little toy for us to check out today.
That's right. Yeah. Not so little.
Not so little.
Not so little, yes.
How long have you been with SSL?
Oh, about 24 years now. Wow. It's been a very long time.
Wow, so yeah. You've seen the products and the evolution and all the things that are going on, because which is really cool, because this is like the 6th generation.
That's right,
of the Duality.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think there's some misconceptions about this console that often when I talk to people, they think it's a digital console.
Right.
But it's actually not. The Duality part of it, tell us what that is.
So the reason it's called Duality is because it has dual purpose. So first and foremost, it's very much an analog console, a large format analog console, but the dual functionality comes in some of the things that it can do. The biggest thing that it can do is it's a controller as well as a console. So that's somewhat unique in the large format space, in that this controls your DAW as well as being a great analog console. So it gives you that workflow that you can't really get outside of an SSL console.
Right. But the control and the interfacing with your DAW is more than just buttons and transport control and that kind of thing. There's really two-way activity back and forth.
Absolutely,
between the two.
Yeah, the faders, so we can control the faders in the DAW, we can control the pans, the send level, we can even make assignments from here as well. So in terms of integration, it's very tight, like you would see from a manufacturer of a DAW, but in reality, it's that as well as an analog console.
Right, and then there's a plugin that actually works as part of the Delta automation system for this as well, that it's pretty crazy the way that works, because the DAW is actually automating the console back.
Exactly, yeah. We can actually make these faders plugins in Pro Tools, so or Logic or whatever DAW you might be using. So yeah, that's something that's unique to SSL as well. You can only find that in SSL consoles.
Right, yeah, it's really fascinating, that integration between the two. It's a very different experience than when we think of like just a controller. Type of situation. Then of course we also have to talk about the analog situation here, because this is a full-on SSL analog console.
That's right, yeah. I mean, one of the things that we do at SSL, we talk about lineage and heritage, and we put in here tools which you're going to see from previous generations of SSL. So the EQ curves, you're going to see right back to the 4000. The E series and the G series EQ curves you will see on our channel strip right here. And we've carried that forward, not just with the 4000, but we had that in the 9000, and today we have it in the Duality as well. Right,
and the big change with the Duality Fuse is this new addition to the center section. Tell us about that.
That's right, yeah. So the Fusion center section here is based off a rack mount processor that we have called Fusion. And basically what that does is that's mix bus processing. So one of the things with SSLs is they're very nice and very clean, and very, have a lot of low end and are very punchy. But some people sometimes want a kind of coloration for that mix bus. So what we've done here is we have 6 analog processors which actually color your mix bus. So it can give you that different flavor that you might not get from just a standard mixing console.
Right. There's even some differences here, some things this can do that the rack processor can't do that you've incorporated here.
That's right, yeah. So this has a fine image adjust. Of course, when we're doing critical listening, and we want to make sure that our stereo image is perfect, so we have some tools to do that. And also this is available as an insert as well on the patch bay.
Right, so very cool. Now you mentioned the heritage and the E and the G and the 4000, and one of the things we were talking about before we rolled the cameras is that that's really a thing with SSL, is when customers choose SSL, they tend to stick with SSL.
They do, yeah. We're very fortunate in that we're known for commercial recording studios. So a lot of successful artists have actually worked on SSLs in the commercial recording space, and we find that people, once they have an SSL, they'll stick with SSL. The experience is so good, the features are so great that they continue. So when we come out with a new console, we have lots of people who've actually continued that and upgraded. So this now has become the studio standard for the commercial recording space now.
Right, and yeah, we were talking about that there are commercial studios that have multiples of these. We have artists that are putting these into private studios. And one of the things that makes that possible is, well, two things I'll mention. One is that there are a number of different frame sizes available here, so you can scale this to different studio situations. But there's also, we'll say, really tight integration with Sweetwater with this console.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. You know, with Sweetwater being one of our partners, we very much try and share the experience of ownership of the product and of also with the customers as well. So we work very tightly with the sales engineers at Sweetwater to actually make sure that customers get what they need and what they want. This is a one-on-one experience. When you talk about being a Duality owner, we talk about welcoming people to the SSL family, and that's a relationship which builds year upon year. So when you install something like this, it's actually SSL staff that come on site and put it together and test it and make sure that it works with your DAW, make sure that the speaker outputs are correct, make sure that it's perfect. And that is something which SSL is the only large format console manufacturer that gives you that experience. And once you're satisfied, and once our engineers are satisfied that it is as good as it can be, then we do some training. And this is something we do in conjunction with Sweetwater as well. We make sure Sweetwater staff know what this product's capable of. But as an owner, we want to make sure you get the best out of it. This is the equivalent of a race car. So we want you to be able to drive it really, really fast and get the best out of it day after day. And that's the experience you get when you buy an SSL Duality.
Right, and that being able to work fast and intuitively is really part of the SSL story, because when we talk to mix engineers, high-level artists, people who are using these consoles, it really becomes an instrument for them.
It is, yeah. I mean, very famously, there's a few Grammy winners who will say they own their careers to SSL consoles. It's something which we really love to hear. We love the idea that what people do on here is really influential to their creative process and can make them work really fast. And that's something we hear time and time again.
Right. They're actually playing the console.
They're playing the console. Yeah. It's an instrument, just like a guitar's an instrument or like a drum kit's an instrument. This is mix engineers' instruments.
Right, absolutely. Now, I mentioned that there are different frame sizes. You can go from 24 channels with the center section, of course, to 48, to 72, to 96. So it will scale to different situations.
That's right, yeah. So this is a 48 channel one that we have here, and we go bigger, we go smaller. But each one is custom built to order. You can have producer bays, you can have inboard patch bays, you can have wraparounds, we can do anything you need. SSL is known as the king of the large format console, and we make consoles bigger than anybody else has done. And with this console, we can either go bigger or we can go smaller.
Right, and that's something where you can really work with your Sweetwater sales engineer, who's also going to be interfacing with your team at SSL and really configuring the console so it's going to be perfect for the customer that's looking at it.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not just about Duality, it's about your Duality. Your console is different to somebody else's console. And we make sure that partnership with Sweetwater, we get the very best for the customer.
Right. Man, Phil, there is nothing like the feeling of sitting in front of a gorgeous console like this, and having that tight integration with your DAW is really an experience beyond what you even experience with a lot of dedicated controllers. And it's just so exciting to have you here. You're doing certification training with the Sweetwater sales engineers so that they are totally expert on these consoles. That's right, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're really looking forward to getting into it. I know the Sweetwater team are really excited to be in front of this console. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for taking time with us today. I know you're going to be busy all day doing training on this, but it's just so fun to see these beautiful consoles, and I think there's room in my home studio. You can have it to go if you want, Mitch. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Great to see you. Thanks. Always a pleasure. Come back soon. All right. Bye-bye. And thank you for joining me here at Sweetwater. We're with SSL checking out the Duality Fuse. It is an amazing console. I highly recommend you check it out. Head to sweetwater.com, or better yet, this is a console where you're going to want to sit down with your Sweetwater sales engineer, so reach out with them. They've had training, they're fully expert on these consoles and configure it exactly the way you need for your situation.